black coffee.
This is the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network. Coffee people talking to coffee people about coffee and things coffee adjacent. This episode of Coffee Memo is brought to you by Kavoya Specialty Coffee, where coffee is always a collaborative voyage. Welcome to Coffee Memo with Rob Stephen, a podcast where we talk about coffee industry news and current events. This is episode 18, recorded on April 29th, and the topic is the coffee pipeline, producers and prices. We could have used producer psychology in the title, but we're both suckers for an alliteration. The big question, where's the coffee? So Rob, we've got some possibly, maybe, probably good news on the horizon. But we don't like to count our chickens before they're harvested. So I thought you might want to talk about that, but also talk about why the good news on the horizon isn't great news at the moment.
Yeah, I want to know what kind of chicken farms you've
I'm inclined to mix my metaphors.
Yeah, today will be one of those days, I think. So there's a lot of talk in the sort of market analyst circles about a market that's waiting for something or is tightly coiled or really some people are even using the word dangerous, but I reject that sort of framing. I think that the market has been trading sideways, and it's been trading sideways in the context of there is by every account a very large crop coming from Brazil starting to ship in August. It's now April, end of April, and in between then, the market's down $1 from where it was last year.
Yeah.
But the market's still inverted, strongly inverted.
Yeah, we've got like 8 10-cent switches in places.
And diffs are still very firm. Spots are still hard to come by. And so there's this sort of consensus that there will be prices coming down once all this coffee fills the pipeline.
Yeah, and this is something like 70 to 75 million bags.
Yeah, there's a lot of coffee, right?
Yeah.
Plus the Central American harvest will come. Colombia will put some coffee in. Indonesia will put some coffee in. The Robusta crop will, continue to do what it's doing, right? There's potentially demand softening a little bit, so also less need for coffee, right? So you've got all this action pending that hasn't happened yet, right? And it's sort of like when all of these things happen, prices will come down. But in the meantime, we're in this world that we live in where there's not enough coffee, coffee's hard to come by, prices are still relatively up, and it's unclear how long it will take to fill the pipelines. Right. And so one of the factors that I wanted to talk about today was the role of the producer in this, right? And so Brazil is not out of coffee.
Right.
But it's very expensive. And so what I want to talk about is the sort of role of the producer in that and how producer psychology works on a mass level, right? So I'm not talking about any individual producer who may be listening to this and say, I see myself in that or I don't see myself in that and you're crazy, right? But, we're talking about in very, very broad strokes that when producers have had a sort of period of a good run with which we've had with a very high market level, some things happen as a result of that. Okay. So one of the things that have happened is that, so these high prices, they basically created, especially in places like Brazil, very strong balance sheets for these producers. They paid their debts. They've probably got some reserves. Maybe even the currency is helping them a little bit. And so that creates it enables withholding of coffee. I don't need to sell right now.
Right.
So they have optionality and they have confidence. I got money in the bank. I have coffee to sell, and I don't need to sell it at this price. I don't need to. I'm not fear-based. I'm not economically driven to sell at this price. I've seen it go higher.
Yeah.
I can wait. Right. So that's a sort of a psychological broad strokes profile. Right. Now, what's going to happen? There is a ticking clock. In August, new crop is going to start to flow. By September, October, we're going to be well into it. There's going to be millions and millions and millions of bags being exported. And the general consensus in the market, which could be wrong, but is, more than probably 70% of the participants believe that market levels will come down, as you can see in the inverted market, right? So as you look forward into the future, prices are lower every terminal month as you move forward, right? So they're expecting coffee to relieve the pressure on prices.
Yeah.
So the question that we're trying to get at here is, how long do you wait before you decide to sell?
Is this who blinks first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're back to chickens, right? And so, right now, availability is tight, diffs are tight. It's hard to get coffee at a what I guess roasters would call a reasonable price. Now, producers would call it a very reasonable price. We're not here to have that conversation, right? So, but as the harvest advances and nothing bad happens, like bad weather or some sort of natural disaster or anything like that, and the volume grows, it actually creates physical pressure on the producer. And by physical pressure, I mean actually like, where do I put this coffee?
Oh, so you mean physical?
Physical, yeah. I heard today that one of the problems that's happening in the oil countries is that they've actually run out of places to put it.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Because they're not exporting. And when that happens, when you've got oil that is continuing to flow and you have no place to put it, it actually can create negative futures prices, which is something that's happening on the internal market.
Wow.
Yeah. So coffee has never got to zero, but it's gotten close a few times, right? Because there's always going to be a place to put coffee, but oil has to, very specific storage conditions. So it's, that. But there are if you go to a place like Brazil, there's warehouses everywhere, but there is a finite amount of them. And when you have a monster crop, you can run out of places to put them very quickly.
Right.
And then, the people who are storing coffee for you, there's costs to that. There's costs that you paid to harvest the physical product. Since now and then, you've been depleting your cash reserves. There does come a time where you are physically basically compelled to sell your coffee. And so that physical pressure is as much a factor as blinking first, as thinking, oh, this is as high as it's going to be and I need to sell now before I lose out. That is a factor.
Yeah.
Also, where do I put this coffee is a factor.
It's such a overwhelmingly practical problem.
Yeah, right?
There's nothing philosophical about it.
Right. So, if you're a roaster and you're looking at, when will the blinking happen, it's understanding that it's a combination of these two things. Because the practical impact of this now is this a good place to fix? Should I wait for the market to drop, on my forward coffees? I don't know, right? But sentiment is that it will, but it's going to happen when the blinking happens, right? And that blinking may not need to happen for quite some time, only in that the pipelines are empty. So a lot of the coffee that will ship in the first part of the cycle, I don't expect that in the first week of August everything's going to change. Certified warehouses are still empty, below 500,000 bags again. If you go to any of the warehouses in the U.S. that are made for coffee, even like private warehouses, they're empty. There's not a lot of coffee. We've never had such a low spot position in our history.
Sure.
Right? So those pipelines need to be refilled before enough sense of surplus is created to really bring the market down.
Is this a sort of thing where the producers are eyeing each other?
Yeah.
And looking at each other's warehouses and sending spies into other warehouses?
I don't know about the sending spies, but I think everyone who's playing in this game plays amateur economist and Keno at the same time, right?
There's no reports or anything that tell us if producers are running out of room. I mean, is there?
No, there is market intelligence. You can have, we operate warehouses in Brazil. We know when they're full, that kind of thing, right? But that's not, it's not. It's a variety of factors, as it usually is with something complex. So, what are we looking for if we're on the roaster side? First of all, the counsel that I would always have is be ready, and so be ready for rapid movement. Because my experience that I would lean on here is that when these things happen, they happen slowly and then all at once. And so you'll get some blinking and then a little more blinking and then everybody blinking.
Yeah, then the dam breaks.
Yeah. But on the other hand, if there is something bad happens, knowing all those things that I said that make it tight now will lead to explosive up.
Oh,
right? So it's sort of one of those things where, yes, we're in this range-bound little medium area, not a lot going on. Most people would call it a boring market, right? If you are okay here at boring is a great time to trade, right? Because it could go up, could go down, and explosively. So that's when people say this market is waiting for an action. It's waiting to do one of those things, and they think it's waiting to do it violently.
So does the tension come from the level of uncertainty about how it's going to break and when?
Yes.
Yeah,
part of it, right? So I mean, a good part of it. There is uncertainty as this pipeline thing. I don't think people are paying enough attention to. I just really am, because of where I sit. I just see levels of inventory at various aspects of the supply chain, and everywhere I look, there's no coffee. At origin, there's some coffee. It's being held. In the import side, there's hardly any. On the roaster side, people are hand to mouth. In the exchange warehouses, they're almost at historic lows. So where's the coffee, right? It is sitting in the hands of the producers who still have it, who have decided not to sell because they want higher prices. So will they get them in the short term is the question.
They're gambling.
Yeah. But they're gambling with a strong hand until the river comes, right?
Yeah. I mean, the risk is on the trees right now, right?
Yeah.
For them.
Right. So if the more bearish signals that come out that are positive for future coffee supply, the closer to them the risk is that now you're going to miss your shot, right? And weather is noise right now. It's not something that I am losing a wink of sleep over. It was cold in Brazil yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
That's give me a weather event and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, just historically, anticipating a large crop, we're going to hear about cold.
And someone's always got an agenda to move the market.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, the levels of volatility that we have seen over the last, year are staggering. And there's plenty of money to be made by people who trade that volatility.
Yeah.
So, a little scare or a little positive sentiment can help a lot of people who are, participants in the market. But as someone who, ideally if you're a roaster and you're thinking about your needs for a whole year, that's not something you want to change your strategy based on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, we're always trying to explore different aspects of the business that we're in. And I just wanted to talk about producer psychology en masse. Like what is this point where everybody blinks?
Yeah.
Right. And it'll be really interesting to see in retrospect. We will be able to, in say December, point back and go, that's when it was. And you'll see the massive drop in the futures price. And it'll be interesting to go back and sort of see what were the things that led up to it. But these are the things I'm watching for now.
Yeah. Cool.
But as we sit here in April, plenty of time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Rob. You've been listening to Coffee Memo with Rob Stephen, part of the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network, where the executive producer is me, Mike Ferguson. Our theme music for Coffee Memo is Jealous Dogs by the Pretenders. If you know, you know. If you don't know, ask.
Black coffee.
If you've enjoyed this or any show on the Kavoya Coffee Podcasting Network, please do all the things. Like, rate, subscribe, follow, tell your friends. Right now. I'll wait. You'll find a link to our short listener survey in the show notes. And if you haven't already, please take the survey.
Please, I'm begging you.
Finally, remember two things. You can always email me with thoughts, questions, ideas, and recipes at mike.ferguson@kavoya.com. And Black Coffee is performed by the one and only Ella Fitzgerald.
Do they make you all get spy names on the way in? Is that how this works?
This has been a CCPN production.